Okay, absolutely amazing, fantastic, great and glorious, soon to be famous one day, Nick Dutch, long-standing, full-time professional tarot reader, back again. And you'll have to forgive me because I've been doing a bit of redecoration in the place where I'm living, and as you can see, I've got paint all over my hand. So my style of presentation using this kind of like thing I'm doing right now will probably be losing a certain quantity of je ne sais quoi as a direct result of that. But never mind, you know, you like me because I like the tarot, you like me because I do what I do. I mean, I'm not actually a bad guy. I mean, just, I'm doing a job which is different to yours. I'm doing a job which may challenge you. You may think there are all kinds of things about people like me who do this work, or you might not. Either way, without further ado and all that kind of jazz, let's just get on with this nice little bit of video which I'm doing for you today, which is looking at the Liz Dean Tarot, which I'm doing for fun, because this is my thing, you know. I'm a professional tarot reader. I love the imagery of tarot and the way in which every single deck describes itself differently. Now this, I don't know what you want to call it, like a mini-series of YouTube videos. It's not really a mini-series. It's me when I've got some time sitting down with like my favorite toys and having a bit of fun with them and talking with you about them. Now, this is not a bad kind of tarot deck, okay? Why do I think it is not that bad? I mean, the imagery here is simple. It's almost like the artistry has been designed to have some kind of quasi-medieval fantasy going on with it. It's got a kind of energy of simpler times, a more ancient time. This is the kind of deck which you might want to take to a psychic fair event or similar, which has a medieval kind of feeling to it because of the style of the imagery. It's not specifically medieval. Obviously something like the Oswald Worth deck and the Tarot of Marseille would have a traditional appearance for that kind of time, but this has much more of a kind of like a folk myth kind of feeling to it. It's an elaboration, a perceived vision of a particular style of energy associated with a certain period of time. Okay, it's not genuine. It is designed to feel genuine. This is my take on it. I don't know whether this is what like Liz Dean or whichever artist she was working with was intending. But this is the kind of feeling that it gives me. I'm just having a quick look through the majors right now. You will see that there are some traditional devices from, you know, the Rider-Waite, Tarot of Marseille, and of course Oswald Worth kind of like imagery. But there's also a lot of deviation from the original form. Okay, the Sun card is relatively consistent, but if you just go back a few, okay, just go back a few to the Death. In what way does that connect with tradition? It doesn't really. Alright, if you look at it from that point of view. But if you look at it from another mythological point of view that Liz Dean was trying to point to, then it would make much more sense. Obviously the Fool is kind of like relatively accurate, but he's got a little spotty dog there. If you were to refer back to the Oswald Worth, it's not really a pet dog called Spot, right? that you've got attacking the Fool. And he certainly isn't biting the ankle of the Fool. He's pulling his trousers down and revealing his backside, which is showing sensitivity and also showing the earthy nature of the human character being revealed by fears, and fears holding you back. So some people say that the dog or the wild creature is preventing the Fool from making a mistake of making a big leap, and some say it's the Fool reacting to his own fears. The good thing about tarot is that the interpretation is fluid. But again, this is like you know that whole story of three blind men approaching the elephant. One is holding onto the elephant's leg, one is holding onto the elephant's tail, one is holding onto the elephant's trunk. So they're all perceiving the same thing from different points of view, and they'll then interpret it differently. Such is the case with tarot, which is why when I'm on various tarot forums, whether it's on Facebook or whatever, I enjoy seeing the different interpretations that other people have created and use when they're approaching the major arcana of the tarot, as well as the court cards and the pip cards, because like it shows me where they are coming from. It shows me their interpretation. Now the star here is much more traditional, much more traditional. Very slight variance, obviously, but still the same kind of essence. So you've got to then therefore ask yourself, why is the Death card so different and the Star card quite so traditional? Alright, let's see how these things connect. I haven't actually read the Liz Dean instruction book which came with these cards. You want to know why? Because I want to read the cards. I want to see the imagery. I mean, some other time I may go back to that, but I'm looking at what these things are trying to show me, where they connect to tradition, where they break tradition, what other kind of meanings do they give, what kind of what the colors, the whole texture, the style of art is communicating to me personally. Now, the Hangman might look traditional, but on the other hand, it also lacks the traditionality, because in the traditional Hangman, you got money bags on either side of the character, which are spewing gold and silver. And there's extra esoteric meanings associated with that. I mean, you got gold and silver for the yin and the yang, the solar and the lunar, and you got the idea of the material is kind of like wasted on us when we're supposed to be going on a spiritual journey. And again, the interpretation gets deeper and deeper and deeper with every single time you look at something like that. So I think it's rather weird that in this deck we got that very key form of symbolism actually missing from it, and instead the story is being brought back to the character. It's being brought to the astrological signs and all that kind of stuff, and the numerology. That's essentially where a lot of the power is being drawn to. But we don't have the Hebrew letters written on the cards in this particular case. It's all more to do with astrology, which is therefore where this particular deck seems to get its power from. It gets its power from numbers, from astrology, and a certain nod towards tradition. Now, if the Hebrew letters aren't being mentioned there, and there's some kind of like movement away from that kind of method, it's moving away from the kind of like high magic, Kabbalah, that kind of thing, moving away from the Judeo-Christian traditions, and bringing forward, again, something which is being communicated by the art style. And the art style is this like almost fantasy of the medieval life, the medieval world, and a time of which is simpler. Okay, this is the kind of feeling this deck is giving me for very good reasons, and we got again some allusions to tradition. We've also got some movements away from it there. I like the rendition of the Hermit. Maybe trying to portray the Hermit much more as being more of a medicine man. I mean, I guess there is a serpent on the staff in many different tarot traditions, but I get the feeling, because all of the rest of the card is this like blue, grey, green background, and all of a sudden got a much bolder colour on the serpent itself, that it's the message of the serpent which is being brought forward, rather than the sense of the Hermit. Now, if you were to compare and contrast the appearance of the way that the Hermit is holding the lantern with the Prediction Tarot deck, it's the cloak of the Hermit which is obscuring the light of the lantern from the outer world, whereas in this particular case it is open and the lantern is expressing its light to the outer world. With traditional tarot interpretation, it is often being explained that the wisdom of the Hermit is the light, and he keeps the light to himself. So he's not being bold and brash about everything he knows, and he's keeping his wisdom to himself. The traditional, witch's pyramid, or was it magician's pyramid of to dare, to know, to will, and to be silent, which is just basically instruction on how to do things, really. But this is suggesting expressing your knowledge, telling everybody in your own little way. So I feel that there is a very strongly different wisdom and different interpretation from the subtleties of the way in which the Hermit is expressing his energy, which is obviously a big change. The Moon, very good, very traditional, very beautiful. With the crayfish, we got the dogs or wolves appearing there, but the Moon itself, again, going back to a more sort of like woodcut type image, if you think about it. So once again, we got this fantasy expression of a kind of like medievalist world. again, you know, I can't help but feel that the artist here is really trying to move away from the whole Judeo-Christian mythology thing, because the four creatures you see on the corners of the world or the universe card traditionally relates to the, you know, the creatures from what's it, Revelations. It refers to the cherubim and traditional Judeo-Christian symbolism. We don't have that here, and again, it's much more running through fields of wheat, maybe. I wonder why that particular phrase came to my mind, but never mind. Right, okay. Very nice. Not much I can say about the Temperance, really. Okay, not much I can say about that, apart from the fact that the angel's dress doesn't seem to fit very well. But I like it. It's gentle, it's warm, it's pastel, it's friendly. And now we go back to some semblance of tradition. The figure 8 above the magician's head, very traditional. And the 4 magical tools on the altar, again, very traditional. One arm raised, one arm lowered, the as above, so below. This one is a much stronger reference to occultic ideas and tradition, but you'll notice that all 4 legs of the table are visible here, whereas only 3 are visible on the Oswald Wirth version of the magician, because essentially that was, some people would say that that is demonstrating the idea that there are some things which are still unknown, whereas in this one it's portraying yet again a very different message. But the disc, the cup, the stave, the sword, these are very traditional these days, Wiccan pagan things, so they're going to appear on lots of versions of the magician card, especially because a lot of people involved in ritual magic really, you know, identify with those symbols. Now, with the Judgment card here, we don't have any dead bodies coming out of graves. We don't have the message of envy, because within, again, the Oswald Wirth message, we got the angel above, we got the one spirit rising from the grave and the others in a state of envy. That's what it's supposed to be suggesting, but this is only focusing in on the call, maybe the call to prayer, the call to worship, and the call to true faith, maybe. Although why, considering that everything else, or a lot of the other symbols within this tarot deck are going against tradition, you would have the traditional Saint George cross on the banner at the back. Difficult to say. Maybe I should actually read the instruction book which came with it, you know, because but I don't do that much. I follow the traditional ideas. I follow what that's trying to teach me, rather than necessarily going straight on to anyone else's interpretation. I mean, you can use these things in any way you see fit, and the action of sitting down and reading through you know, the book of words which came with it will turn the experience, you know, your own personal private artistic experience of dealing with that particular tarot deck in a different way, and it becomes more like you know, more like a game of analysis for you. And we can say the Charioteer is again pretty good, but still missing some traditional high magic interpretations, which that's beginning to upset me now, actually, if I'm really honest, because we got such potential here. But remember, this is just a pack of cards, okay? We don't have to get too passionate about the whole thing, nor do we have to say that tarot is a religion, therefore everything's got to be the way that I say it's got to be, because it isn't. That's why we got Tarot with the Care Bears, for crying out loud sake. Tarot with the Gummy Bears. So there must be a Star Wars tarot out there by now. I heard some, I don't know whether it's accurate or not, but I did hear there was like a Game of Thrones tarot which is being developed by some clever person somewhere, which is obviously going to make a couple of quid for someone, so great, let's go for it. Or would help people to understand through contemplation more about the subject of the Game of Thrones. But we also got to be very careful when, you know, when there is popular media out there, is it doesn't always connect properly with the story, because it could be hastily made. I don't know whether you saw a movie called Hannibal, which was about the young days of the character Hannibal Lecter before the story of Silence of the Lambs. Completely missed out on the singular most important factor of the character, which was that he was a psychiatrist. Instead, it portrays Dr. Lecter as being a medical doctor. This was incorrect, and irritated me throughout the whole time when I saw that movie. I'm telling you, it really, really did upset me. He's a fucking psychiatrist, for Christ's sake. Come on, just pay attention to the damn thing. Stupid, stupid, stupid people. Anyway, complete digression. But my point there is that the art can express itself in one way. The actual story could be different. So you may develop a great deal of love with one particular tarot deck and its story and its message. Alright, but it could be based upon something which could be a misinterpretation of something else, and so on and so forth ad infinitum. So are we learning, or are we distracting ourselves from whatever the original truth was? I think there's always is questions, and that's part of the fun, part of the excitement, and part of the pleasure of living in the real life. Anyway, I've rabbited on for rather a long period of time to just very quickly show you the imagery here. Just like Queen of Swords is a very compelling tarot card in general because everyone likes it and likes to hate it. Okay, and the fact that they portrayed her in red here with the sword up and her hands in a kind of like a halt, you know, be an angel and shut up, would you pretty please kind of expression. I think it's quite cleverly done. Have I had too much caffeine today, or have I not had enough? I report, you decide. Well, I pretty much had to finish off the decorating inside today because I didn't wake up very lively. I had to do something about it, so pump the real coffee in me straight away and then have instant throughout the rest of the day. And hey presto, everything gets done, and your Knight of Pentacles is upside down. There we go. Right, remember what the suits stand for, okay? The suit of staves means sport, the suit of cups means social interaction, the suit of coins means commerce, and swords means conflicts. Okay, that's what it was originally designed to mean. Okay, so staves was sport. Why was staves sport? Because it was hockey sticks in the original early days of tarot. Okay, that's where it came from. And that's what everyone forgets, okay? Everyone goes back to the kind of like magical traditions of, are you know, the sticks fire, or are they air, or are they whatever? But no, they were hockey sticks. It was about sport. It was about game playing, okay? Remember that. My point again, okay? There's a distraction. There's a moving forward in different directions, and it takes people away from the original stuff. And the suit of staves is like a prime example of that. Anyway, have a quick look at the back because that's fun too. It's quite nice, but it's a pretty tarot deck. It's a pretty little tarot deck. It's nice. They've all got their problems, every single one of them, including the good ones. Oops, that one's the wrong way around. There we go. That's the closest thing you're going to get to a blooper in this video, I think. And of course the fact that my hands still have paint on them from when I was decorating. Not all that bad there, but there it's, oh my god, look at me. Alright, speak to you again soon, God bless.